You know, you've been hearing about a lot of pastors now that be coming out and they be gay. You know, I remember, and this is nothing new. You know, when I was way back in the '90s, when I was on drugs, here in Detroit, there was I was on the street and I was asking for money and I was trying to get me something to drink. So I was telling this guy, can I? And back then I begged for money. I might not look like it today, because I'm 20 years, sober from crack. But back then I was begging for money, so I was on the streets downtown begging for some money, here in Detroit, and the guy asked me what I needed money for, and I said, well, I'm just trying to get something to drink, So he told me, oh, come on up to this room, and it was a hotel downtown. I can't recall which hotel it was. He was like, well, just come on up to this room, me and some brothers having some drinks. And I knew at that time that it was a festival going on downtown. It was a gospel mega fest going on downtown. And a lot of different hotels were booked up, and a lot of different conference centers were booked up because it was a real big thing going on back then, right? So, and this guy did have a suit on, and I kind of figured he was from the gospel fest, the gospel fest, So I went on upstairs to the room where he was at, and when I walked in the room, it was a whole bunch of other guys in there. And I could tell off rip that a lot of these guys were gay, if not all. All of them had to be gay because it was a gay party, but it was all of these different pastors, all of these different choir members, all of these different people who was a part of this gospel mega fest up there gay. And I'm pretty sure a lot of these men were married too. So it kind of shocked me. And when I think about it today, and see all these different pastors coming out, and I'm thinking to myself, this is nothing new, because way back in the 90s, and a lot of y'all probably know too, a lot of things about these church members back then who were gay, but it just wasn't something that was talked about back then. But this is nothing new. Like I said, back then it was a whole room full of gay guys up in there, and they were part of these churches. And I guess they had pre-planned this thing that they all would get together on this certain night. And I've never been gay. I'm not saying anything about somebody that is gay, but what I did do that night is I went up there and the guy said, you can get something to drink. I got me something to drink, and I went on and left. But that's my story when I first ran into these, this gay stuff that's going on in the churches right now.